We are live with our second of two uh, hangouts tonight. We have Ed Pendowski. He's in the in the mystery area in his mobile office. We can't tell where he's at, but I'm sure it's in the Carmel area. You got Mike Reiser. He just had to enter his home phone. I guess he's in the region. I didn't realize they had that kind of stuff in the region.
Yeah, it's actually one of those ones that are connected to the wall that you have to spin.
Rotary phone.
Yeah, it's a rotary phone. So if I'm gonna get a house phone, I might as well go big.
Yes. Those are probably pretty expensive these days. We're gonna talk some wrestling, some state finals brackets. Coach P, how are the Greyhounds looking this week?
The Greyhounds are good. Last practice of the season today. It started a couple years ago. Group of guys come into the room and all of a sudden, we go, all right, let's get warm. Then everybody's wearing singlets all of a sudden. It's just kind of awkward when the basketball team walks through and these guys are practicing, just everybody 50 deep in singlets today. So we had a good time this week in practice and ready to go.
Yeah, that's this was our first year. We actually were kind of made everyone that wasn't in a spring sport be at practice, and it's nice to have a nice full room of guys working. And obviously we have some young guys that are going to be coming up and stepping in the lineup, so they're always wanting to get better. So that's we did the singlet thing last year for when we got the team of the week for the local news station, and I think the young lady that was the reporter, she was a little in awe, especially when the coaches were in singlets too.
Yeah.
I put a singlet on a couple months ago, and they don't make them like they used to because I put a singlet on when I was competing. That spots around my waist, they weren't there. I think they're changing singlets. They have to construct them or something.
Yeah, probably the singlet. I agree. I have the same feeling. So we're gonna go over 106, 120, 126, 32, 52 or 38, 52, and 82. So we'll start with 106. Mike, got some good matchups here. Lots of good first round and quarterfinal matches. I think this is one. I have to pull up the article. I think he got 15 out of 16 ranked guys. It looks like it. Trey Sturgill from Peru was the only one you missed. And I think he was in a quarter bracket where no one would have. There were 3 or 4 unranked guys. So what's your thoughts on this weight class, Mike?
Definitely an interesting weight. I think going into last week, I thought Jacob Moran was the top of the field, and then he had a tough semifinal match at East Chicago with Giovanni Diaz. So I think a lot of times you go in and you have this opinion that this guy's untouchable, especially, you see so many results, and he's had some really great results. He's a really good wrestler. But I think that Giovanni Diaz really showed that anything could happen. So taking third, you put yourself in a position to get a runner-up, and he has a tough senior, which I think will be a tough matchup with Wyatt Miller, South Adams, Friday night, 37-1.
Yeah, that's gonna be one of the bigger matches. Miller's had a pretty good season, finally punched his ticket, and then he draws into Moran. That's a brutal draw, but either way, he'd probably drawn into Diaz, and that would have been pretty tough.
Yeah, and Giovanni's looked really good. His only loss was to Martin Cruz in Maryville, and that was a really good match at the Lake County tournament. But he's the first semi-state champ for Wheeler, which is really cool. We also have Harrison Hadley, the first state qualifier for Lapel, which is pretty neat.
Yep, and we had a nice little article about him yesterday. Hopefully you guys read that as you're going to Valentine's Day. Coach B, how good's Hadley? Obviously you probably saw him firsthand.
Yeah, we wrestled him last year. And he's a nice size 6-pounder, and he does a good job. He's gonna come at you from beginning to the end of the match. And I watched him some this weekend, and he's definitely legit. A couple of people told me that this guy, the 6-pounder from Lapel, it's a guy you got to go wrestle, and he did. He brought it and did a good job at semi-state, and we'll see how the state tournament goes.
Yeah, no, that's it's pretty cool to be a school that gets our first state qualifier. Hopefully, obviously, he has a chance to do it again and come home with a medal at least once, maybe. He has a tough one with Kyson Montgomery, who came down from 13. That he spent most of his time at 113 and looking pretty solid. Obviously, there's going to be him and Moran in the in this on Saturday morning is going to be a big one, possibly, because that's team points. That's a guy going for fourth and maybe a guy getting fifth.
Yeah, so, we kind of talked about it. I talked about it at work today with some guys. That semi bracket, you're going to have Moran and Tyson Montgomery projectively. I mean, obviously, anything can happen. That's kind of the beauty of the sport. That's going to have huge team point, and then you'll have the winner of that. If you're just projecting Logan Bailey, which I have huge team points because Cathedral obviously brought an entire team to the state finals.
Yeah, Coach P, looked like you were down at Newcastle. Looked like Cathedral won a lot of the 50-50 matches in the ticket round and such. Were they pretty impressive Saturday?
They were. Coach McGinley, he gets his guys ready to wrestle in February, and I've said every year that's the hardest part of coaching wrestling. Can you compete in February? And they've got a nice group of guys, and they wrestle confidently, and they don't make mistakes. And when they're down, they keep going. And it scores a lot of points in the state tournament series if you're wrestling confident and you just keep wrestling. I mean, it's been our phrase since we got into mid-January, was just keep wrestling. No matter if you're winning, losing, fight or cry. You got two choices, and the Irish are getting up and fighting.
Yeah, it's going to be. I think the team race is going to be pretty fun. Yeah. From what it sounds like, the bonus points will not be counted Friday night. I don't know why. It's a fun thing with IHSAA, so that could be interesting because there's some guys that can get some bonus points for all 3 or 4. I mean, you consider Chesterton, you consider Columbus East in the mix. All 5, 6 of those teams could be getting some bonus Friday night, and that could, if they don't count that, you could look back and say, hey, there's 10 points there that those teams got Friday night that weren't counted. That could make a huge, huge difference. Any thoughts on this weight, Coach Pendowski? Guys you've seen, any favorites that you're going to keep your eye on between matches?
I think I've always said 106 and heavyweights are it's kind of a different sport than, the other 12 weight classes. You go into what's your body like? And, the 6-pounders, how are they going to manage making weight Friday, making weight Saturday morning, how that goes through, and the team race through the whole state tournament is I think everybody said, what a good year to go watch Indiana wrestling as the team points start to get rolled up because there's so many teams that get, got to count on so many people. And so, as you go through with Cathedral, Brownsburg, Portage, Parameridian, these guys coming through, they all got significant point scorers going through here. And then again, you put in, the 6-pounders bodies in the heavyweights, with so many coin flip matches of who's going to go one way or the other, and you got a guy that is, might be projected favored to score some major points and make the finals, and he could drop down to Wally from Wailing Woods any minute now because he's going to he made weight bad, or this guy's just a giant and scores from some weird position. And so, 106 pound, 106 and heavy, going to be a bunch of points scored there for the team race and how that one goes through. I mean, it's definitely going to be super exciting to watch. There's a lot of big names from big schools in this weight class. And, that's going to make it super important. And then you throw in as we go through, I've told our team 2 weeks in a row, you're going to leave Banker's Life Saturday night and go, man, I can't believe fill in the blank name won, because nobody talked about him. Nobody saw him coming. The Monrovia guy last year in the finals. I mean, I don't know how many people picked him to be in the finals. And so who's going to be that guy this year? And if it's from one of these guys in the team race, it's going to play a big role in those guys winning the team race. And if it's somebody that knocks off 2 guys in the team race, it's going to help somebody else win a team state title.
Yeah, all those teams. It's crazy because you're thinking, you have the front runners, Brownsburg, Cathedral, Portage, Perry Meridian, then you got to throw in guys, Chesterton and Columbus East both have huge horses that are going to score some big points, and it's going to be very interesting, and they're going to need some help from everybody else. So they're going to be, all those those coaches are going to be on edge all day, all week, all weekend long. So,
Joe, how did Fernando Flores look? I know that he had some losses at 113 from Goshen.
He looked real good. He looked solid. He controlled Miller, which was kind of surprising. Took him down a couple times. Really, he looked really solid. He's a big, him and Miller, obviously being seniors, and they both wrestled up a lot this year. They're both good sized 6-pounders. I know they're probably pulling a little bit of weight. Obviously, that's going to be, Friday night. Not quite right off the scale. Saturday morning's gonna be right off the scale when they're wrestling. So they're gonna have to make sure, like Coach P said, manage that weight correctly, because that's huge. I know. Wyatt Miller was very excited about that extra pound tomorrow. He was so that's gonna maybe help him. I know he's as big as our 120 pounder. Yeah. I want to see how much he weighs on Saturday night, because it might be pretty heavy. Moving up 120, got some great matchups here. Logan Bowe, Danville had a great postseason run. Just doing, wrestling real well, beating some solid guys. Lucas Walenzek having a good tournament, got put in a pretty solid place for Cathedral. Hunter Watts, Tyler Triana could be meeting up for Saturday morning rematch of the Al Smiths finals. That was a last second takedown by Watts, and that was pretty close. I'm glad I wasn't the ref on that one, because I could see it going either way. Then you got a little Portage love, Brock Peely and Brendan Manningly. Is this first time you're coaching against Vega there, Coach P?
No, year one we wrestled them in a duel.
Okay, so it won't be your first time going up against Vega. So,
but this is, I got to ask, what do we know about the Peel kid? And I said, well, his dad's name's Roger. He was an all-state defensive lineman. He was an average 189 pounder. He was a senior the first year I coached in Portage. And his mom did his student teaching for me when I was in Portage before she became a teacher in Portage. So I know their families well, and so it's a great group of people.
Yeah, it's just ironic that you get to this level and then you're coaching against one of your former proteges. Big match, obviously. That should be probably one of the matches Friday night that, number 3, number 6, that everyone's gonna be watching. Below that, Raymond Rio and Ian Heath. Ian Heath having a good season as a freshman from Leo. And then you got another team race match, possibly in the quarters. Sammy Fair, Drake Campbell. They both have unranked guys matching up. Mike, what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, I thought, just to kind of give a shout out to Vince Sparrow from Penn. He's 27-14 sophomore. I thought Coach Harper had those guys rolling Saturday. They look like, I seen Sparrow early on at the Harvest Classic, and those guys look like completely different wrestlers from when I seen them earlier. And I think that's a testament to their coaching staff. I think they do a really nice job. I think an underrated guy, he's unranked, but he was in the rankings most of the year, is Alex Batista of Hanover Central, 24-4. He has Walziak. How is it, Ed? Wallenczak. And he's really good. And he's kind of had some tough luck. I've done a couple shows this week, and we kind of touched on how he's had some tough luck. But you see his summer results, and he's right there with any of these guys. He beat Triana this summer. Triana beat him in the semis. Logan Wagner is obviously a dangerous wrestler from Zionsville. He had a win over Vaduya this year. And Logan Bowe has been on a tear for Danville, 34-4. But, he's kind of ran the gauntlet with Campbell and Rio the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, he's had to wrestle those guys 3 weeks in a row. That's tough. That's tough for whether you're winning or losing to get back up and wrestle a tough guy like that. And he's pretty solid. He has a state medal. So he's gonna be one that, gonna be one to watch, because he could be that one that Coach P was talking about that everyone was overlooking, and all of a sudden he might end up in the finals. So
and you touched on the team race stuff with Fair and Campbell. Campbell is for Brownsburg to have that success, they're gonna need these guys to keep advancing. And if Portage is gonna have that success, they're gonna have to win a big one Friday night with Brock. But Brock's a big game wrestler, man. That guy definitely turns it on for the state series, and he looked good. I thought his unsportsmanlike conduct that he got hit with was kind of – I didn't like the call, but, Portage was up 60 points, so I think they could have got hit for a couple.
Yeah, that was – I did see it. That was a little interesting, because obviously it came from the bench, which that is a rule they put in a few years ago. that you can the refs that aren't on the mat can call on sportsmanlikes and things like that. Coach B, what's your thoughts on this weight?
This one's going to spread it out a little bit of, pockets of the state, bunch of guys that are good, getting some state recognition and wrestling each other a bunch. Now we're going to get them in the gym this weekend and kind of shake them up and see where everybody comes out. I think Triana and Peel have wrestled each other a bunch. You go through, Fair's got a bunch of mat time against a lot of people, and he's going to put guys in spots, and his length is going to give people crazy fits as he gets on top. The top bracket should be a good one with Bo coming through. He's beaten some people lately, and looking at the Wallensack match is a guy that's, the Cathedral guys wrestle well this time of year. And so, that's going to be a big one that goes into the team race stuff. Going through the bottom half of the bracket, Rio, Peel, Mattingly. I mean, those are all going to be fun matches to watch, combining styles a little bit, different body types with Rio is a big, tall, lengthy guy. And, Mattingly and Peel are not real tall, and so, who's going to throw those all into a pot and, clash of styles, putting all those together. Campbell and Fair, if they would both win their match tomorrow night, that makes for a good match that's going to go into the team race stuff that's going to make everybody watch it anyways. And so this is a fun weight class. And I think, again, that's why this year is going to be a great year to watch is the team race combined on top of the great wrestling, where all of a sudden now, all the Brownsburg fans are going to be rooting for, some guy that lives out in, Lonely Lodge, and he's going to come through, and why are the Avon guys and the Brownsburg guys rooting for the Lonely Lodge guy? And then they're going to go, oh, the team race is going on because, he's wrestling the Cathedral kid. And so those things coming through, it makes the tournament a lot more fun.
Yeah, definitely.
And we didn't even touch on the number one ranked guy in Jim Hunter Watts, who's been phenomenal this year.
Say that again.
I said we didn't even touch on Hunter Watts. We kind of scanned right over him, but Watts has been on fire. He wrestles so well, and I think he chain wrestles so well. He's exciting to watch.
Yeah, he is. He's having a great season. Only losses up to 126 to Mejia. And if you want to figure out who everyone's losses to, we did put together a nice little article with everyone's losses, pretty much. Yeah. And only 1,040 on the year. So check that article out. I'm sure Ed was looking over it for his pick'ems that he's going to lose to me, right? The Who Are Your Losses To article with everyone's losses in their state in the state finals.
Oh, and I didn't enter that?
No, you got to enter the pick'ems. You got to do that.
All right, I'm on it. I got a fantasy team I feel pretty confident about.
Moving up, 126. Great weight class is one we've been talking about. The rumors early on off season were, these guys are going to meet up. These guys are going to meet up, and we weren't sure. And then all of a sudden they did. We got 3 state champions, 2 other runner-ups in the bracket, and then just loaded. Vaduya, Rooks, and Garcia returning state champs. And then you have Mejia and Ty Mills in there also. And then you throw in guys like Colin Pointer, been in the semis. Somebody else has been in the semis, haven't they? No. But then, even the guys that are being overlooked, Ethan Smiley, him and Tanner Demeanor, both one-time placers. They've been to state three times. This is their 4th time to state. They're no rollovers by any means. This is going to be a fun weight to watch from top to bottom. Mike, what's your thoughts here?
I know there's been some discussion, but it's one of the more deeper weights, talent-wise, so it's the top that we've had in a long time. I don't know what you guys think overall, but you have a lot of state experience here and a lot of guys that have had high-level state experience. Team race implications right off the bat with Colin Pointer and Alec Vaduya, possibly. That was a match that they wrestled at the Indiana Mat Preseason Open, where Pointer was the winner there, but that was 5 months ago or 4 months ago. Caden Rooks, and I haven't seen Briar Hall. I know he had a really good record, but it sounded like he looked really good on Saturday.
I can tell you that one. my version of that was, as we're going through the tournament and you're talking to people and you're getting scouting reports, and I had 3 different people tell me for no reason, they just brought it up and said, hey, put it down. The Hall kid is better than you think he's going to be. And I just went, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. And he's pretty good.
Yeah.
He's pretty good. And he's going to score in positions, and he's going to keep trying to score. And it's not always the most orthodox stuff. I got to watch him a little bit last weekend just because, it kind of piques your interest. And, hey, the Hall kid's better than you think. And you go, yeah, okay. And then 2 other guys tell you that out of nowhere. I didn't ask. It was just, hey, I'm telling you, the Hall kid's pretty good. And, to come out and they have the quality win against Medea. And then, going through that, I've been excited about 126 all year. I know, about mid-December, I kind of looked at 26 as a weight throughout the state. And I went, okay, these guys will separate. Somebody's going to go up. Somebody's going to go down. These guys aren't all in the same weight. And then not only did they all stay there, but Smiley came down to go get in it. So that makes this fun. I don't know if Dana White's in charge of 126 or what's going on. But, yeah, you can make 126 happen next weekend. I think they might sell out Baker's Life again just to see 126.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun way. We saw we have a kid that's a semi-state qualifier, and he wrestled Hall, he wrestled Viduya, he wrestled Rooks. He's wrestled half the guys in this weight class, actually. And Hall put it to him pretty – I'd heard someone that said something about – I think he got in the semi-state rankings, how he put him in there about a week before that. So I'm like, piqued my interest. So how good is this guy? And he looked pretty good early in the season. So I kept my eye on him. His only losses are to Smiley and then Tylen Tucker out of, I believe it's either Ohio or Kentucky. And I know he's pretty tough. I think he's been to IPO a few times. That name I was just looking at his results. So you there, Mike?
Yeah, hold on a second.
What's he doing?
I don't know. I had to go get some dinner.
Gotta go get some meatloaf. I don't know what they're doing back there.
Going down the second half of the bracket, that's just going to be, you have Ty Mills, Tanner Demeen. Demeen, obviously, he got a medal his freshman year, hasn't gotten one since. He's going to be hungry for a medal. Tough match right there. 2 seniors, right? Then the winner gets Mejia. just brutal bracket. Ethan Smiley having a good tournament. Has some good wins. Him and Garcia will probably be those two both are pretty much goers. So that could be a pretty fun match, whether it's could be a 3-2 great match, or it could be 15-12 great match. What are you seeing on the bottom half there, Mike?
Yeah, you have a potential matchup. Tanner Demeen's been there 4 times. He has the 1 medal, so he's obviously dangerous. And I just kind of touched on how Coach Harper had those guys clicking, but Ty Mills is a tough Friday night matchup for anyone, especially coming out as a semi-state runner-up. You think that, I lost to Colin Pointer. I'm going to go out there and get a kind of soft draw. You draw a guy that's been in the state semifinals 3 years in a row. Yeah. So you could have 2 possible finalists there, returning finalists at one point, Christian Mejia and Mills. Then on the bottom, I like the way Ethan Smiley wrestles. I think that he's one of the guys that he doesn't get out of position. He holds position really well. I like his attacks. I like the way his brother wrestled. So that's going to be an exciting match for Asa Garcia in the quarters potentially. With just stylistically, I think that's a really good matchup.
Mike, I think that when you look at this weight class, I think if you redraw them, you're going to get a different champ. And because what's going to happen here is you've got a bunch of guys that are major point scorers, and then you're going to wrestle against a bunch of guys that are going to grind you and ride you out.
Yeah.
Brooks is going to score points. I saw last week Hall's going to score some points. Medea is going to throw some points on the board. And what happens when you get 2 guys that are going to put a bunch of points on the board, and they wrestle, a Mills guy's going to beat you up and ride you out. And, if the score's 2-1, Mills won. But you throw these 2 all in there, and, I think you saw it last week at our semi-state with Hall, where, Hall and Viduya go into a point fest, and the Vegas odds makers are going to put the over-under on points scored at 19. But you throw Smiley into a match against those guys, and He's going to dominate. He's going to control position. He's not going to flash it up. There's probably not going to be near fall points. And so, you go through this bracket. How's a guy going to handle an offense? How's a guy's going to handle the other guy's defense? This is an awful lot, from my opinion, a matchup of matchup styles. Which, if you go through the bracket, I don't care who beat who. You're going into this guy's offense. This guy's defense can handle his offense, or this guy's offense can't get through his defense, and you mix them all up. And because last time I thought the transitive property doesn't work real well in the wrestling world, but you throw these guys all together, it's going to be funner than hell to watch.
Oh yeah, and I think you hit it on the head. It's going to be who's going to be able to wrestle their match. If you're going to go out and try to wrestle a 2-to-1 match with an Ethan Smiley, and I would say almost any weight, that's not a win-win for you. You got to kind of, I know him and Viduya have kind of go back and forth, but you're going to have to wrestle whatever your pace is. So those guys are going to have to kind of set the pace for themselves.
And then throw in, you put 15,000 people in front of a high school freshman. What happens there? Yeah, I think we've all seen that of just some guys clam up and some guys don't clam up. An offensive guy can have an advantage because his guy's going to clam up in front of 15,000 faithful. And if it's even and it's 1-to-1 and you're a defensive guy, it's got to give you an advantage in front of 15,000 people.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited for this weight. I'm excited to see how it shakes out. I mean, it's going to be fun. Obviously, not only with that. I mean, you're talking team race implications right off the bat. Obviously, I mean, any of these teams. I mean, you have Portage, Columbus East. I think they're in the mix a little bit. They got to get if they want to be in the mix. Rooks needs to be in the finals and maybe be getting his second championship. Then you got Brownsburg and on the bottom half, Mill's gonna have to navigate a minefield of just different, like you said, different styles, different paces. So
and to touch on that, I think a lot of it can be you get that momentum rolling. If Cathedral can get those guys rolling early, it's just those guys are going to feed from that. Or and Rooks is kind of the starting point for that for Columbus East. And which is a great starting point if you can get the ball rolling for those guys. Or if Moran and Hegedus and Pointer go out, or Peel goes out, then Pointer can get, kind of keep that rolling. You just get that momentum. You get that good vibe. That just kind of looking ahead, forecasting ahead, obviously anything could happen. But if, that team race is tight, you got Brownsburg and Avon, I'm sure there's nothing more than what Avon would want to do is dash those title hopes for the Bulldogs,
Oh, yeah. They would take – I'm sure they would take great pride in that.
I thought they were close friends.
Close neighbors.
They're neighbors, but it's like the Hatfields and McCoys, I think. There's no love lost. Moving up, 132, you got another Rooks. I'm sure people in the southern half of the state are going to be elated when there are no more Rooks. Graham been in the semis 3 years. Definitely a favorite. Could be 1 and 2 on the same side. Him and Manzona. I'd rather throw you than know you. Bryant. I think Bryant and Dickens is going to be a barn burner. That might be a rematch of Sinkovics and was it Johnson?
Yeah,
5 years ago, where they were just throwing. I mean, Dickens is tough. Dickens is legit. So that's going to be an interesting match. And I think some of the modern Dickens isn't afraid to throw you. So Manzona will throw you, and he'd rather not know you. Hunter Cottingham and Carter Nori both were state qualifiers last year, right?
Yep.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay. And then you're going down. You're going to get a Alex Mosconi, Indianapolis Cathedral. That's a huge one for them. He actually got put in a pretty good side of the bracket. Definitely the favorite to get to the finals. Obviously, he's going to have to go through Jeremiah Brooks, who is having a really good – he had to navigate a tough bracket to make state. Alex Barr kind of quietly was a semi-state champ. Yorktown always has some guys peaking at the right time, and then yet throwing a Drew Kreitzer actually got put in probably about as good as a spot as he can to make it the semifinals, which that'd be huge points for them because he could have drawn into Mosconi, he could have drawn into Brian, so he got actually put in a pretty good spot. Coach P, what's your thoughts here? I'll let you go first.
Rooks has got himself some experience. Brian's going to come bring a fight. And you know, coming from the Newcastle semi-state, Norrie's pretty darn good, you know, and the Moscone match, he was winning, I think, 5 minutes and 58 seconds of it, and gives up reversal to lose. And, you know, I think that on the top half of the bracket, then throw in Dickens, you know, who's going to give everybody fits. He's solid on the mat. He can go on his feet. You know, those group of guys coming through there on that top of the bracket, like I said, Coach Cooper's got Columbus East wrestling pretty solid. Rooks with the experience that he's got with the brother, those guys probably beat the piss out of each other every day at home. So, you know, being in the battle isn't going to bother them very much. You know, Moscone's got national level experience on the bottom. The Yorktown guys, you know, usually come into this tournament and compete well. And the Brownsburg guy looking to get hot from the bottom half of the bracket. I think, you know, can Bryant put it together through a tournament and win 4 matches through all of this? You know, with Rooks with the most amount of experience and being as good as he is on his feet, with Moscone and the Irish are doing good things. And so, you know, I think those guys coming out of that's a pretty neat place.
Yeah, should be a pretty good match. What do you think, Mike? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, we got to do the live coverage for Bryant and Jeremiah Brooks. Those guys were going at it. Those guys were just the Bryant's. I think he threw one of the best throws I've seen all year. I know I sent it to you, Joe, where it was just like you knew it was going to happen, and Jeremiah Brooks is going to go for it too. He's in Indianapolis or Whitelands, Evansville, right? He came up to Wawasee, and he had to win a lot of tough matches to get there. You know, he had to beat Sean Hollis of Lowell. He had to beat Reese Rodriguez of Hammond Morton, who was a 2-time state qualifier. So he's looked good. He's one of the more exciting guys. If you get a chance to watch him Friday night, he's going to do some stuff that you're going to be like, wow, that guy's really good. And Manzano Bryant's the same way. I mean, Eli Dickens, I don't know what happened down at Evansville. I mean, it could have just been a grinder of a weight. But I was shocked to see him take 4th out there, especially he came in with 1 loss. But he's as dangerous as anybody in the state. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see a 4-over-1 there. And you know, that's tough for me to say coming out of the region in Evans or the East Chicago semi-state. But Manzano's looked really good. Carter Norrie, you see his results. You see what he did this summer, and he's been all over the place. I think he was a match away from being a Triple Crown. He's really good. And, you know, Ed touched on it. Moscone. McGinley has really good success Friday night. I know that someone posted that. He had, what is he, like 86% on Friday night or something ridiculous. He had the most wins Friday night, and I think David was second, right? Maldonado.
Yeah, it was a crazy percentage. And when you think about how many guys because they've gotten a lot of kids to state, and they have just I might have to dig up that article, but yeah, it's pretty good.
I think a sleeper pick here, and I think Coach Tante always does a great job of getting guys prepared for the state tournament. Jared Rowlett at Warren Central, he's had some really nice results too. At 30-8, a junior, he has Alex Barr. Not thinking, you know, if you get caught looking ahead, that could be one that you're looking at like, man. Jared Rowlett's not a guy to sleep on. Yeah.
Any other thoughts here, Coach P?
No, I think they nailed it. I mean, broken record, they keep sounding like the team score is going to play a point in all of these weight classes. You know, can Moscone go through? What's Rooks going to do? You know, Kreitzer can come in and score a bunch of points that the Bulldogs are going to need. And so, I mean, this one's big weight.
Yep. Moving up, 138. Connor Gimson, didn't mention his brother Matt was on the other bracket. He could be dangerous if you overlook those Jimtown boys. The twins, they beat up on each other. Gimson and Dembowski had a great Friday night match. Then you go Bailey Moore, Dawson Combast. You got 4 top 10 guys in that quarter bracket. That's just ugly. Chris Rump, and then unranked Dylan Gowdy, and then Matt Lee and Braylon Harrington. Harrington, I know we've been giving some love lately. Him and Lee should be a great match. Lee's just a goer. You know, the winner gets Chris Rump. That should be another great one there. Obviously, we could be seeing the Combast Rump match in the semis if, you know, that plays out that way. Mello and Mulkey on the bottom half. Obviously, so we got 4 of the top teams are right in the mix right there. Mello has Noah Hunt, who's a state placer, so that's going to be no easy match. I know Blue South always wrestles well. Austin Moore, Adam Davis down the bottom half. Alexander Studer. I think you got 15 out of 16 ranked guys here, Mike. When are you going to get a 16? When are you going to get a 16?
I don't know. When we go wrestlebacks. Come on, Ed, make it happen. Bobby Cox, the Carmel guy.
Yeah.
He's not in charge anymore of us.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm pretty certain Gowdy came out of a quarter bracket that there were no ranked guys. I'm pretty positive of that. Because I remember seeing his stick around match. He won in the last second. But, Mike, what's your thoughts here?
First and foremost, congratulations to Dylan Gowdy of Western. I didn't even have him on the watch list. So, I'm happy for him. I wasn't a kid that I was going to be like on a watch list. So, for him to make it, representing the little guys, I like it.
Hey, he works out in our club. We're a guy, we like him a lot. He comes in and fights his tail off. And good for him. He put a tournament together, got in the right spot at the right place.
And that's all it takes. You got to just, you said it earlier, just keep wrestling. You can't wrestle the guy that's not in your bracket. See someone come up behind you. No. So, yeah. But Joe hit it on the head. That Friday night of Connor Gimson and Ian Dembowski, I'm looking forward to that because both those guys are kind of funky wrestlers. They like to roll around a little bit. Combat's had a nice year, but Bailey Moore is extremely tough too. So that's a really tough quarter bracket. Chris Rumpf obviously is a freak of nature. That guy, he puts on shows when he goes out there. It's really impressive. Braylon Harrington, I've really been impressed by that guy. He had some really awesome results last year in the state series. That's going to be a whole offensive. I don't know if Dylan Gowdy's a big offensive guy, but those guys like to score points in that bracket, in that quarter. Zach, tough draw for Noah Hunt. I know we did an article on him a little bit a while back too, where he had 2 ACLs. Everyone that tells me about Noah Hunt told me he was the best little kid wrestler they ever saw. Like in this group, they said that he was ridiculously good when he was a little kid, and that he took some time off, and then and we said in the article he took some time off, and then came back, was injured, got injured again, the same injury. So, but he's dangerous. Preston Rizzer, Brayton Goring. That's a little South Bend love. Those guys probably wrestle each other a ton. Mulkey obviously is really good. He's going. Where's he going? Gardner Webb. And Adam Davis, Austin Moore is one I didn't pick here because that's kind of a toss-up match to me. Both those guys are really tough. I'll have a look and dig in a little bit deeper before I put my pick'ems in.
You haven't put your pick'ems in? I did it already tonight, or this afternoon.
I was waiting for confirmation.
No need to put them in. No need to put them in.
I want to wait for confirmation to make sure Blake Borman was wrestling.
You can't edit them this year. You get an email. I set it up where you get an email and you can edit them. So that should make life a little bit easier. Coach P, what's your thoughts here?
I think as a fan of the sport, I look forward to, Columbus East, Portage, Cathedral, and Brownsburg semifinals. That'll have the gym kind of jumping. Just a bunch of big programs with a team race going on. That's the way they would draw it up if it was the movies. But the last time I checked, it's not the movies. Dembowski's going to give anybody fits just with the way that he wrestles. Gibson's a guy I've only seen a handful of times. I don't know very much about. Bailey Moore's a fighter. Beach Grove guys are going to come and kick you in the teeth and keep going. And so, he's always exciting to watch. Just looking at the rankings, that's a good match. Harrington, every time I pass him at tournaments, I just stop him and say thank you because I like watching him wrestle. He's built just like me.
Yes.
He's put together. He's a very tan Nathan Tomasello is what he looks like. And he just keeps wrestling. Whether he's winning 3-2 or losing by 5 or up by 5, he just keeps wrestling. And it's good for the sport to watch him open up and score some points. And if you've got a Lee from Mater Dei, that's always something you got to go, they're going to put one move together after another, and they're going to stay solid. And, that's a match that I'm going to pay close attention to on Friday night. The bottom half of the bracket is it Mello's turn. He's been right there a couple of times, and is it his time to put a tournament together? And Mulkey's going to keep matches close. And like I said, with a bunch of points on the line, 15,000 people watching, you make things freeze. Mulkey's going to get you. And so, like I said, if this was the movies, Columbus East, Portage, Cathedral, Brownsburg guys in the semis, it just makes that a hell of a lot of fun to watch. And the wrestle before that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, those 4 teams are going to be right in the thick for a state title. That could be the match going into Saturday night that we're saying that's going to be the deciding state championship factor.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I say you put the 4 of them on 2 mats right next to each other. That's going to be pretty neat.
Yeah, and I just, like you said about Mulkey, I just remember his semifinals match last year. He looked like he was gassing a little bit and goes to overtime with the DLP. And I know we're probably gonna get a text that's not gonna be very pleasant, but that was just a sick duck under, and it was just like, wow, he just pulled it out. And like you said, you got to step it up at the right time, and he can pull that stuff off. He's a fun kid to watch. He nerves of steel, so that's gonna be a fun weight. Moving up, 152. Brayton Lee. He's kind of good.
Yeah.
This is obviously Brownsburg. All those teams have pretty big, a couple of big guns, and this is one of Brownsburg's big guns. Obviously, he's going to score a lot of points. Unranked Jackson Pettigrew navigated his way to state there. Him and team race Donnell Washington, DJ Washington, Saturday morning. That's going to be a good one. Washington can bang, and obviously Coach Vega is going to have his guys ready, and they're going to have a good game plan for them. Eric Easton had a good Fort Wayne semi-state. He doesn't get any no rest because he has Corbin Pollitt first round. Pollitt was a state qualifier last year. Mike somehow didn't rank him. Mike could have had 180.
Yeah.
But then Graham Calhoun, Cody Wagner, that's going to be a pretty good quarter bracket down there. Calhoun's been having a really good season, kind of under the radar. Up top, Noah Lamore had a great semi-state, beating Washington in the finals. A rematch from the Al Smith, Joel Arney and Derek Blueball. Blueball had a great Al Smith, winning it, kind of coming out as a 4 or 5 seed, I think. Having a good tournament. Elliot Rogers, Joseph Walker. Walker will put points on the board. He has 11 of his 12 losses are to state qualifiers, and his only other loss is to, I believe, where's he at?
There was only an article with this in it.
Yeah. His only other loss was Logan Macklin from Adams Central, who was a previous state qualifier. So that's pretty impressive. You have 12 losses. Him and Joe Just are tied with 11 losses to state qualifiers on the year. So that record, you'd think 12 losses, he's no pushover. Him and Rogers should be a great match. And then Robert Dieters, Xander Strauss should be a good match right there. Ed, what's your thoughts here?
The Crown Point guys coming through at this time of year. Lamore's the guy that's going to put pressure on you. He's not going to roll the points up. Can people handle that? Blue Ball, I've seen wrestle a couple times. I met his grandpa once. I'd like to see him, watch how he goes through the tournament, and it would tell us a bunch more about him. Didn't he get hurt last year?
Who was that?
I think Blue Ball got hurt last year. Is why I didn't go through the season. I probably shouldn't say that because I'm not proud of him, and now his mom's going to be mad at me. Rogers is a good example of what McGinley does out of Cathedral, because we wrestled him in the semi-state last year, and it was a match we thought we could win, and we lose 1-0, and I think we had high crotch in the air as the buzzer went off, and so we lose the match, and the guy comes through and he's in the semifinals of the state tournament the next. He's a big, lengthy guy, and if he can put a tournament together, it's going to be an awful lot for the Irish to be able to compete for a state title. The bottom half of the bracket with Warren, with the guy's probably got 1,000 matches under his belt as a freshman, and so him and Washington from Portage, I think you're getting a little bit of different body types there, and who's going to be able to come through that? I think Washington gets the favorite. I know it kind of stinks for Portage for where they ended up in the bracket. They're looking at the team race stuff, and then you go to the bottom half of the bracket. Those 4 guys, all 4 of them could make the semifinals. out of that bottom half of the bracket. With Wagner's been around for a while. His dad's a coach. And Coach Williams has got Zionsville wrestling at a pretty high level now. I don't know anything about Calhoun at all. And then the Columbus East guys have been just killing it everywhere we go. And then when's it going to be Houston's turn to go put a tournament together? He's got a pedigree. He's coming out of a place that they win a lot of matches. And so, I like that quarterfinal bracket a lot. Let's see who's going to come out of that. That should be entertaining.
Mike, what's your thoughts here? Past Brayton Lee's kind of good.
Yeah. Noah Lamore looked really well, and I think that he's a guy that I really thought through his entire career was waiting to put it together. Like, he had a medal last year. I know he battled injuries, but he looked ridiculously good at the semi-state. And I think he's put himself in a good position here. I mean, obviously 152 is another weight. You would think that guys would move with a guy like Brayton Lee in that weight class, but it's a very talented weight class. Joe Arney, obviously, he's had a nice career for you guys, Joe. Going into this, it would be nice to finish it off with a medal. I don't think that's an unwinnable match. I think a lot of those guys are right at that same level, like Joel Arney, Derek Blueball, Elliot Rogers, Joseph Walker, Robert Dieters. All those guys are like right in the mix. I think they would, like we said, in a lot of these weights, you can redraw it and they'd win a lot of matches. So that'd be a good Friday night. Elliot Rogers, Joseph Walker, they've wrestled. Joseph Walker looks like he's a dude that could put it together too. He had a nice Indiana Mat tournament when he wrestled Brayton Lee. Robert Dieters, a goer. Xander Stroud is a goer. Heenstad, I mean, he was with you guys for a little bit at Carmel. Had a nice showing with you guys before he went back to Yorktown. Calhoun's great defense, good rider, is a state medalist. That's what I'm looking forward to, 2 and 5. That quarter bracket's going to be tough. Obviously, Donnell Washington has had a lot of success in Illinois, and Illinois is a little bit ahead of us right now. I know that's kind of not the cool thing to say, but he wrestled Aiden Warren early this year and looked really well. I think Eric Keith, I mean, he wrestled for you, Coach P. I think he's an underrated value in that room, and I think that he breaks down the sport in a different mentality. I think he's really smart. And if anyone was going to give Brayton a match, I think that could be a really good match right there in the quarterfinals. Just because with Eric's mind and the ability that Donnell Washington has, I'm not sure. I know Coach Ed coached in the region for a long time. That kid's a twister, and twisters would come to all the local tournaments, and they would just put on shows. They're just doing things that guys aren't doing, the Mario Morgans and guys like that. Obviously Brayton Lee is the favorite, but I'm excited to see that. I was excited to see that at the IHS WCA, and they missed each other. So I think Brayton's the heavy favorite. He's nationally ranked, but I think that could be really exciting.
I told the story about the Harvey Twisters to Welch the other day in the coach's office, trying to explain to the Castle guy what the Harvey Twisters are. And I saw the best novice match I ever saw at the Portage Freestyle Tournament. I think we stopped the tournament to watch it, and it was B.J. Vutrell versus John Morrison on mat 2 at the Portage Freestyle Tournament. And, you go, this is going to be a pretty good 10-year-old match, and it was absolutely spectacular watching those two junkyard dogs go at it. And then those guys went on to go have pretty good college careers.
Yeah, Futrell's having a pretty good international career so far. Yeah. Those guys and Moran was a Harvey Twister, and Donnell's you see like a lot of the same stuff that those guys were doing. We live close enough to Chicago, and Harvey's a pretty rough area, to say the least. I don't know if there's a Harvey in Indiana equivalent.
Maybe Carmel. Carmel's probably the next closest thing.
Very similar. Very similar.
Yeah. And what they do over there, I mean, obviously the Williams brothers, but Donnell does a lot of that same stuff, and he's just funky. He catches you in weird positions. I mean, obviously Brayton's only given up 7 takedowns in his career, which is I like to tell that stat because it's almost mind-blowing how good that is.
Yeah. So, Coach P, you going to take the Welches to go visit Harvey? That'd be a little bit of a culture shock, wouldn't it?
Drop them off and leave.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Man, they'd be running that town in a heartbeat, man. Don't let those guys fool you.
No, they would. Those guys can fit in just about anywhere if you give them 2 hours to relax.
He'll come back with a handful of money, man.
Harvey's just a little bit different than Paradise, Indiana. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the probably closest thing would probably be Gary. I mean, Gary's pretty rough on the edges, but Harvey's a little bit rougher. I think Harvey gets lumped in with Chicago a lot, So a lot of those like bad things you see on TV is Harvey. And I mean, I don't know. You guys we get Chicago news. We don't get Indiana news. So it's hard for me to say that. But what those guys have done with that club, I think, is a pretty amazing. They've had a lot of success, and they've got a lot of guys college educations from that club, and now some of those guys are at Portage also.
Yeah, no, that's a real good club nationally. I know. I mean, you hear Harvey Twisters, and we've driven through there when I've been through the region, and I'm like, ooh, this is Harvey. Or the Harvey, the Harvey Twisters. I'm like, ooh, this is a little rough around here. Yeah,
what are we doing over there, Joe?
I think we were going somewhere and going through the town. Maybe took a wrong turn somewhere. But yeah, it's a pretty rough area. I think it'd be good to videotape the Welches going there for the first time.
I mean, if you want to webcast that, we could trick them. I've tricked Welches into going to a couple places already. And we can put that into the video montage. Some places we've accidentally taken Welches to.
Yeah, they don't seem to be the sharpest tools in the.
They're sharper than you think. They're just real quiet, and they like to play the dumb card.
Okay. That's nice. Moving up, 182, our last weight we'll go over tonight. This will be a fun weight. Obviously, you got another Brownsburg big dog in Nathan Walton. He could also be hitting up another Portage guy in the quarterfinals. Like we hit on a little bit Tuesday, Portage, Portage is in the mix. If they win it, they definitely have earned it because they didn't get the best draws. Obviously, you put yourself in the draws, but they just didn't get any love here. Jeremy Torres down there, Jonathan Johnson, a nice article on him a few weeks ago. Walton has Daniel Below. And then going up, Silas Allred having a great season. He's going to be in the same half bracket. I know Allred was on Brownsburg's Disney team, so I'm sure they'll know what he's going to come with. He's tough. He's fun to watch. And you got Hammond Gavitt, Jamari Washington. I know you guys were talking to him about him on the radio. They said he's a valedictorian, does everything at Hammond Gavitt. I mean, he might be principal too, I think.
Yeah.
And then him and Noah Kressel having a great season. Kressel and Allred should be a great match. Kressel's a D1 recruit. Up top, Cade Girgenti, his only losses to an Illinois guy. Sam Gobian and Kayev Guerrier. That should be a good match. Guerrier's having a great season. Only losses to Walton. And then Connor Graber. Connor Graber might be the second Graber into the finals in the past few years. He had his match with Kressel was really good. He lost to him earlier in the year and kind of really just controlled him. It was pretty impressive. Him and Chaffee from Penn, he's pretty tough. Seen him this year. Aaron Mosley, Jalen Morgan should be another great matchup. A lot of I think he only missed Funk and then Brandon Moore, South Spencer, 16 losses. I only found like 5 of them. So if you guys know any of them, and then Jamari Washington, the other unranked guy there. Mike, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, and Jamari Washington was the first day qualifier since 2000, so I'm sure Ed had some memories of Juan Alba and Kenny Kidd.
Yeah.
Those are the last 2 state qualifiers for Hammond Gavitt before Jamari Washington.
That's awesome. Good for the Gladiators.
Yeah, they said that he's a valedictorian, that he takes his some of his free time and works with kids with autism at the school, which is just an amazing thing for a high school kid. So I'm really happy for him. He was a 4 at the regional, knocked off a 1, and he was 3rd at the semi-state, which was higher. Tough draw. Noah Kressel, first trip down, but he's kind of been on fire. Noah Kressel's pretty thick. We got a picture of him. He looks like he lifts weights. He's going to South Dakota State, which is
I would tell you
North Dakota.
North Dakota State, yeah.
Kressel almost didn't wrestle this weekend. Out at Fargo last summer, he got to be good buddies with Doug Welch. And out at Middle School State last weekend, Kressel decides to walk behind Chad Welch, thinking it's Doug Welch, and rear naked chokes him.
Oh.
And so Chad gets up all pissed off because some dude's choking him, and he doesn't know who it is. And before Kressel had to give it the, whoa, wait a minute. Sorry, I thought you were Doug. So
I think that ever happens a lot. Like even if he wasn't buddies with Doug, they say, "Oh, I thought you were Doug."
I told Chad you got to take the good with the bad.
So do you ever ask the the Welches. Which one's the ugly twin?
They all point at each other. Those jokes get played pretty hard. The
Yeah.
group text messages are pretty funny. They're definitely not appropriate for Indiana Matt TV.
No. I've had my experience with the Lefevres, and I'll just say that as been to all three of their weddings, and the twins got married, and Reese was the best man, and he had to do that speech before when Connor got married first, and so he was a little tamer, and then Connor just let it rip the first when he was the best man, and it was I was like, wow. I was just sitting there with my jaw hitting the floor with the things he was saying about his brother.
I'm not a big Snapchatter, but Chad's kind of stopped doing it. But Doug likes him some sleep, and Chad will take great joy in waking up Doug in times he doesn't have to wake up, and he will Snapchat it as he comes in and like pokes him in the forehead. And then Doug, oh, what the hell are you doing? What's the matter with you? And then Chad will just go and walk out. The first time you go, that's kind of funny. Then like 5 days in a row, you go, okay, this is just a good way to wake up and drink your coffee is to watch Chad torture Doug.
Nice. Twins are fun. So, well, back to 182 as we get a little sidetracked.
Has an amazing career for the Bulldogs. I'm sure they're looking for a state title. I mean, that's going to be huge. I know they're banking on that for team points. Jonathan Johnson, Jeremy Torres, both state qualifiers last year. That should be a good Friday night. Jeremy. Was Jeremy there in the kids club when you were still there, Ed, at Portage?
He was. He was baby, though.
Yeah, he's
for 13 years.
Yeah, he's been in the sport for Portage for a long time, and I know that those guys are always saying that the guys like Jeremy Torres and the Drake Guerreros are the guys that is going to help them win a state title if they're going to win it. They need to let their big dogs go. They're going to have some of these like guys that aren't as heralded. I mean, Jeremy's ranked 17. He started off at 2. Get some big points. Silas Allred, I'm going to be excited to see him. I haven't seen him. I've seen results, but I haven't got to see him live. Jalen Morgan, I got to see at the the freshman sophomore state last year. I was really impressed, so I know that he's pretty tough. Connor Graber, medalist. Cave Guerriere, 32-1. His match with Nathan Walton last year in the ticker round was 1-0, they said, so I'm sure he's very talented. Sam, it's good to see Sam get there. I know that he's a really good kid. He was in the finals of the Al Smith. He's in the same bracket as Cade Gurgenti. So you're just happy to see a kid that's been around for a long time, that worked hard to get there. And Cade Gurgenti's been on a tear. He dominated the semi-state. And he's in a tough spot for Chesterton. And I was saying today that I think Chesterton can make a run if they can get some of their cards played right. We talked about 60 with Diego Lemley and Picorni. And then you can get Gurgenti going. And then you can get possibly Lucas Davidson's going to be the favorite to win 195. So if they can get a couple guys in the semifinals, they're going to be right in the mix too.
Yeah, that should be a good way. Coach P, what's your thoughts here?
Gurgenti in the top half of the bracket, just by record and rankings, is probably got to be favored out of that. Gobine has got, you guys been a gym rat. If there's a wrestling room in the north side of Indianapolis that somebody's wrestling in, Gobine's in it. And, he's taken advantage of it, and he's gotten put together, towards the state tournament series, and he's got him in a spot. The second quarterfinal bracket in there, I've seen the Elwood kid, the Northridge guy. I know the name, but I don't know a whole lot about him besides the name. Going into the third quarterfinal bracket, Allred's pretty good. He came around some this summer. And he's good. He can wrestle on top. He can wrestle on the bottom. And if he can continue to put points together, I think Kressel coming through there was a small school guy and going to be happy to go compete. And he's a gamer, and like I said, I don't think the crowd's going to get in his way. And he placed out at Fargo, didn't he?
No, he was one match away. He lost to I watched a match. He lost real close to a guy that was a Blair kid.
Okay.
I remember watching that match. He was right in the mix, and he was right in that match.
He got on the stage and competed, and I think Walton's got the most street cred of this group of guys here, and then coming through, can Walton styles of wrestling. He's going to score some points. And if he scores, there's going to be points scored usually when Walton wrestles. And if he's on top, like I said, with his with his street cred coming through, I think he's the guy to beat coming through here. But there's some guys that have been wrestling and going to looking to go try to win. This is a fun weight.
Yeah, definitely. I like Walton's he was a gorilla a couple times. He's fun to watch. He doesn't care about the score. He'll go out there and fight, and almost lost us a match against Kentucky because he slammed a kid.
Right. Now, Walton's the guy when he wrestles, I always go, oh, this is going to be fun to watch. But then I tell everybody, all the kids that we're coaching, go, okay, don't watch this. It's funner than hell to watch, but like I said, the Walton can do some stuff that other people can't. And so
yes.
And you want your buddies to go, hey, watch this. This is exciting. But if you're trying to teach the kids or some wrestling, you go, okay, don't watch this. Some silly stuff and ends up on top.
You just gotta. Hopefully, he overcomes the coaching because his coaches will put him down against Drew Hughes for some odd reason. So, hopefully, this year he overcomes that coaching.
He's choosing top now. They learned a valuable lesson there. He got really good on top.
Yeah, when you and he listened to his coaches, which is smart of him to listen to his coaches. But I still give Snyder and Weisjohn and all of them a hard time about choosing down. He was the only one in the state that chose down against Drew Hughes.
I kind of like it.
It's unconventional. You kind of throw him for a loop. Drew's like, "Oh my goodness, someone chose down on me. I don't know what to do." With that, man, seems like it was only an hour, but it seemed like it went pretty fast. Coach P, any words of wisdom? We need a Jeter update. How's he doing? Where will we see him? Will he be signing autographs? I mean, we need to know some details on Jeter.
Jeter signs no autographs.
Oh, man.
Find him. He will not mention your name. No, Jeter is the man, and he has he's done a bunch to help our program. I know he spent a bunch of time in South Africa this spring, making sure that he was helping some people with leprosy. Apparently, still that's around, and he's done a good job. He'll be with us. We always make sure he drives for these important tournaments. His Jedi knowledge gets us through traffic quite quickly.
Nice. Any other words of wisdom before we get off here?
I wasn't ready for the words of wisdom. I have lots of things I want to soapbox and talk about.
Uh-oh. Well, Mike,
get this debate going. I love the debate.
So what do you want to debate?
I don't know. I think the team state tournament this year, I hope everybody can bring their friends and family to come watch, because I go around school. I know I've got one of our principals coming down and he just said, hey, come watch this because, just the spectator event in Baker's Life, you throw 15,000 Hoosiers Hoosier wrestling fans in there, which, if you got to make it go statistically, you go, okay, let's say 6,000 of those 15,000 fans are moms and grandmas and people that are watching watching wrestling for the first time, just going to cheer on, little Billy. But then you put in the other 9,000 Hoosier fans in the crowd. It's just an environment that's super exciting. So, bring your people to watch. So, and like I said, I got the principal at the high school is going to go, I live down there. I'm going to come watch it. And I'm like, come watch Friday, and I'll bet you come back and watch Saturday night. Because just as a spectator, you don't have to know very much about the sport of wrestling, but especially with the team race involved, the gym's going to be jumping, and this is a good year for Indiana wrestling.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we got 4 teams nationally ranked. I know I've been talking with Josh Lowe at Intermat a little bit about some of the team stuff. Asking, what's it look like? Who's the favorite? And basically, I'm saying, well, there's about 7 or 8 matches that can turn the tide pretty quickly. And like Mike said earlier, there's people don't think there's momentum in wrestling, but there is. Those kids feed off each other. I've seen it. I saw it at our sectional. We had a big win with our freshman heavyweight in the semifinals, and our kids fed off that. And we ended up maybe losing 2 or 3 matches from the rest of the tournament after that because they were pretty excited to see that. They were that really they fed off that, and that was pretty cool to So momentum will play a huge factor. You know, winning the matches you're supposed to win, and then winning a few that you're not supposed to win. So, Mike, what's your any words of wisdom from you?
I just, appreciate obviously the platform that we're given to do this. We've had a good run doing the shows, which is always an amazing time. We get, a lot of people on. We had Nick Tuesday. We have Ed tonight. And it's just a different type of platform to get guys recognized. I know there's not a lot of avenues that create this. And I know that when you're out and you're kind of meeting people, there's people watching these and they're really interested, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I am not real happy about Weishan says, I'm not talking about weights that the Brownsburg kids are in, but they just go to hell with you, Pendowski. You got to do the weights that the Carmel kids are in.
No, we did 60. We did 60.
That was Joe's decision, not Nick's.
Yeah, that was mine. I didn't want to have force him to talk.
Dude, I'm like 8 inches taller than him. How can that guy be more intimidating than me? Now you're a computer guy. You're afraid he's going to hack your bank accounts.
Yeah, he has passwords to Indiana Matt, so yes. That's all I have to say. Yeah, no, yeah, I'm excited for the team race. I know that I'm gonna be, obviously you're gonna keep your eye on that, and I know that all those fans from those schools, 5-6 schools, really that have chances to wrestle well, and it's gonna be fun. I mean, there's gonna be some great matches. Starting Friday night, some big matches. A couple guys go down here or there. Just aren't ready. Just kind of fold in the moment, or rise to the moment. So I'm excited. Tomorrow night, 5:45, the Parade of Champions. I can't believe it's here, the end of the season. We will be, just as a reminder to people, the April 14th at Brownsburg, the Dream Team Classic. I know Coach P went to Pennsylvania a couple years ago with us for that. That was a lot of fun. Now we get to team. We're going to do it on our home soil. Hopefully we'll get a little bit more home cooking on the refereeing, unlike we did in Pennsylvania.
That was tough.
Yeah, there was no calls in our favor there. So that was a lot of fun. I know. I think that the USA versus Indiana is going to be great. Hopefully we get a lot of fans there. We'll be probably next week. We'll probably be doing our Mr. Gorilla award, and then our Wrestler of the Year awards for 3A, 2A, 1A, and Coach of the Year. So something to look forward to. Everyone gets a nice little plaque or award for those things. It's great to recognize all those kids and coaches. So, any other words of wisdom, Coach P? Anything you're excited for?
No, I'm excited for weigh in and getting our first match at 120. Those are the things that keep me up at night right now. But like I said, this is a good time for wrestling, Joe. I appreciate doing all of these things to help promote our sport and to keep it growing and doing those types of things. And like I said, I hope the weekend comes out as good as we've all kind of hoped it to come out. I think I remember being out at the NCAA tournament and watching Lesnar wrestle Stephen Neal, where Lesnar's going through and wrecking people. And he's another one built just like me. People kept going, "Hey, Eddie," and they went, "Oh, shucks, that's Lesnar." But watching Lesnar go through and do what he did, and Stephen Neal, win a couple national titles and teching people, and then watching the match in the finals was brutally boring, and it was uneventful. And I don't think that's going to be the case this year, where because there's so many kids in so many different spots, and there's so many going to push everybody back and forth with the team race stuff. And like I said, as a spectator, this could be quite spectacular.
Yep, I definitely agree. So,
just one thing. I know you guys are not. I hope I'm not breaking your heart right now. You guys are not going to be in the team race with Carmel. You going to be pulling for the Portage Indians or not?
I'm going to pull for 8 of the 9. No, I am. Portage is still my home. And, I love those guys to death. I still talk to Leroy and Keith. I took the Welches up to the Portage golf outing this year, which was an experience in itself. But yeah, I love those guys to death. I always will. I mean, it's the bond that wrestling creates. I think I coached every one of their coaches. And so, if the Greyhounds don't win it, my heart's pulling for the Indians to win it, except for 120.
Yeah, I know you had some really great teams there when you were there coaching, obviously. You guys made some good runs, and they qualified a lot, and Leroy's done a nice job. So I know that's probably something you've been impressed with, kind of a lot of times you build those relationships, and you can kind of look back and say, man, like, these guys are doing big things with those guys.
Yep. No, and the last couple of years we've sat next to them. The Greyhound Nation has sat next to the Indian faithful. And, those are kind of neat things where, everybody in the Portage crowd, they don't know who I am. And, but I know who they are. And like I said, I think that was, but yeah, I dig those guys a bunch. And, I root for those guys the best. Now I got to worry about the Cathedral Mafia going to take my knees out as I'm trying to walk into Banker's Life because I said that. But yeah, those guys are family.
Yep. So with that, we're gonna get off of here. Everyone have a safe trip to Indy tomorrow. We'll see a lot of fans out there. It's going to be exciting and be a great tournament. We'll see you guys later.